Actually, our chairman has said everything, and there is not much left for me to say. I would like to thank to Mr. Mehmet Demirci and Mustafa Tahtalı. We have been in the same room with Mr. Tahtalı, and I have benefited highly from him. And there is much of his contribution I would like to mention as well.
Eylül'le de konuştuk. O sizi biraz rahatlatacak şey.
And we have talked with Eylül. She's probably going to tell you much nicer things to relax you. Mine can be a bit boring, so excuse me for that in advance. I'm going to talk about a lot of names and dates, and it's mostly literature. I will have three legs to my presentation. We will have a biography of one of the Tasawwuf masters. Why would the life of a mutasawwuf becomes valuable, precious? And then I will talk about the literature written on al-Rifai. This is a literature of 7 centuries. About 50 pieces of work exists, and finally I will talk about the Sayyid Ahmed al-Rifai book that Kenan Rifai has written, which will talk more about the murshid quality of Kenan Rifai. Mostly the murshid quality of Kenan Rifai Hazretleri was talked about here. We will talk more about his authorship, quality of him as a writer. Why do you write a book? There is a saying in Attar's Tezkiretül Evliya, and Attar says, the words of the tariqat peers are the most important words once the Quran is put aside. This is from Tespitül Evliya. He says their words are not of memorizing, and it is the result of amal and hal. So this is what their words are imbibed from. It's not by repetition, it's by mystery. It's not by known knowledge, but it is from the secret knowledge. It's not from listening, it's from ecstasy. It's not learned from the ancestors, it is from the universe of God's training. And Attar gives that degree of the words, and he also has some subjective statements in assessing these words. He says that there are more spiritual benefits of the words of Sufis for the reader. It's not about reading or writing a chronological lineup of the life of a spiritual Sufi. He is more focused in the personal journey of the wayfarer. And the book has arrived. Let me show you the book. That is the book that we are talking about. This is a very important cover, the cover of this book. The symbolism is also explained within the book. The cover symbolism, maybe most of you have it. I've spent a month, I have worked for a month on this book, and I benefited from it highly. I would like to thank our hojas, our masters again. Attar uses two Sufis incorporates two questions posed to two Sufi masters. The first of these is directed to Ebu Ali Dekkak, and he says, is there any benefit to listening to a Sufi master? And the response is, of course, there are two benefits. First of all, if the listener is a pursuer, talib, his or her aspiration, the himmet, gets stronger and her claim rises. Secondly, if that person sees selfhood in herself, then breaks this pride and breaks the selfhood. So we have a transformation, a cure for our selfhood. You get rid of that selfhood with the word of the Sufism, and what is good and what is bad is known, is shown to her. And if the person is not blind, then she observes herself by this way. That is what Ebu Ali Dekkak says. The second question is asked to Junaid Baghdadi. What is the benefit of stories and narratives, lesson-giving stories and warriors about Sufis for the disciple, for the murid? And Baghdadi says the words of the Sufis are a soldier from the army of God Almighty. So that soldier is beneficial to that wayfarer. Attar also gives a degree to Kalam. Kalamullah, Kalam Rasulullah, and Kalam Rijalullah. So Allah's word, Rasul's word, and spiritual guide's word are in a hierarchical order. So the words of the Velis, Kalam Rijalullah, are in third degree. So the words of the spiritual guides are open for commoners or the elites or for everyone. So in the spiritual journey, in spiritual wayfare, a certain amount of these works that compiles their states and words must be read as a daily, consistent pray in order to travel over some stages, because it has an effect on the person who reads it. Because Attar says, when you recite the Salih ones, then there is serenity for the hearts. So the history of the writings of Tasawwuf, for reasons mentioned by Attar and the Alex, witnesses a gigantic literature compiling the states and the words of the masters of the Sufism. The works, there are the monastery journals, and there are important people like Ibn Arabi's Zunni Misri's monography, or the peers of the tariqats compile some of those. Ahmed al-Rifai is one of the peers that had most number of historical and literature sources. I will talk about the works of Ahmed al-Rifai so that we can see the process, what has happened up until we come to this person. There are about 40-50 pieces of work that I could detect. Only two of them I will talk about. One of them is Ahmed written after 10 years. Ahmed al-Rifai has passed away. The person who writes this is Rafi, not Rufai, but Rafi, an alim, a scholar. He is mostly known by his contributions to the Shafi literature. Imam Ghazali, Rafi, and Imam Nevi has contributed highly in Shafi literature, has a work called Vejiz, and Rafi stands in between, is an important name. And this person writing a biography for Ahmed al-Rifai, being one of the ulema, one of the scholars, is quite interesting. But we see that the Tasawwuf aspect of this man is not known too well. Only one PhD paper, dissertation paper, has him as a topic. And there is a menkube as well. He mentions the name of the book is Sevadul Aynain, and the menkube is as follows. Abdurrahim ibn al-Bademi wants him to write this, and before that demand is brought to him, the writer of the book, Rafi, was already thinking about writing something about Ahmed al-Rifai. So he's really surprised with this demand, and at early days of Rajab month, he starts to write Menakib, and he thinks that he will be done by it by the end of Rajab. But since it's the 3 holy months and he wants to spend his time with prayer, he kind of postpones and procrastinates. And then a week later than that, he dreams of Ahmed al-Rifai. And Ahmed al-Rifai Hazretleri in his dream tells him, loyalty in muhabbet increases the aspiration, himma. So I thought a little bit about it, and there are 2 meanings to the word himma. One of them is a more of a tasawwufi meaning, which means the help, support of the sheikh to the murid, and the first one seems to suit it.
Muhabbetinde sadık isen ben sana himmetimle yetişeceğim.
And the other one is the effort. The effort is of course important, but loyalty to muhabbet is very important as well, he understands. So he takes the message and starts with the morning prayer and is done shortly. I want to tell a bit about the content of the work. And it is about the it tells about the Ahmed al-Rifai's ancestor reaching to Hazret Prophet and the goodness of his generation. Ahmed al-Rifai's ancestors coming to Iraq, Basra, and dwelling that place as home. Birth of Ahmed al-Rifai in 512. Hoja and sheikhs of him from whom he learned the knowledge of manifest and the knowledge of the hidden knowledge, his Gnostic activities, the sermon and no knowledge meetings managed by him, and the incident of kissing Hazreti Prophet's hand in Medina in 555, and names of the people who were with him there, some of his keramets, the reason for finding reputation with the nickname of Eb'ul Alamain, announcing with good news of him by Hazret Prophet in a dream of his uncle Mansur el-Bataihi 40 days before his birth, and being taken of him to Sheikh Aliul Qari al-Wasiti for his spiritual manners by command of Prophet. Also, our first writer was a faqih himself, but he is a scholar of hadith, and he knows the material sciences, the visible sciences, ilm-i zahir, and there is an intellectual circle around Rifai, is what we understand from this. The other book is Gayetut Tahrir. The purpose of writing this book is considering and correcting the claims about the ancestors of Ahmed al-Rifai, claiming that he was not a Sayyid. So in the foreword, he says, it is bad to defamate people, to stigmatize people, let alone the people who are friends of God. So the reason he has written this is because he wants to show that his lineage, his pedigree, goes way back to Hazreti Muhammad. So the pedigree and lineage of Ahmed al-Rifai is clearly explained in detail, and also he talks about Ahmed al-Rifai's obey to Hazret Prophet's Sunnah, the incident of getting Hazreti Prophet's hand out of his tomb and Ahmed al-Rifai's kissing Hazreti Prophet's hand, the names of the people who witnessed this incident and their narratives about happening, and the characteristics of Ahmed al-Rifai tariqa. And I think one important thing about Tasawwuf history is that his tariqa is on Junayd Baghdadi's tariqa and follows their path, and they are on the same natural disposition. And in respect to their contents, there are certain comparisons that I want to talk about. These two works, among those other works, about 50 pieces of work, create the groundwork for all the following works. And if we go to the Kenan Rifai's era in the late 19th century and early 20th century, there are four menaqibs for Ahmed al-Rifai. One is by Hocazade Ahmed Hilmi, one is by Hafiz Nuri, and the other one is Kutsizade Kadri. And Kenan Rifai's is more expansive than the other ones. Kutsizade Kadri's contribution must be mentioned here because he's an important Ottoman bureaucrat in the time of Abdülhamid II, and he translates El-Burhanül Müeyyed, El-Mecalis, and Rahikul Kevser, and he has contributed highly with his translations. Also, he was around Ebul Huda Es-Sayyadi. He was a really well-known name, and we understand that there was a Rifai circle in the Ottoman bureaucracy around Abdülhamid II. Ebul Huda, who is the Sheikh of Kutsizade Kadri, is mostly known for his political activities, and the researchers also know him for that quality and is interested in that aspect of his personality. His contribution, Ebul Huda's contribution, is that he made all the previous literature accessible to the people of his time, and there are a couple of important publishing centers: Istanbul, Beirut, and Cairo. And in all of these three publishers, in 1880 to 1908, there are more than 200 pieces of work written about the Rifai tariqa. So if you consider the publishing history of the Ottomans, having 200 pieces of work published in late 1880s, early 1900s is quite a matter. This shows not only the charisma of the author, but also the impact of the Rifai movement in the Ottoman land. Ebul Huda mostly wrote things compiling 700 worth of literature and transferring to the next generations. The content that had been compiled and transferred to next generations contain rendition of state and the warriors of Ahmed al-Rifai, compilation of his works and words, evaluation of his Tasawwuf views, the main rules of Rifai Tariqa, the detailed history and biography of the featured persons, and also Ebul Huda has another work talks about the kissing hand incident in Medina of Hazreti Prophet. This is told in a separate book, which is quite voluminous, of 300 pages. And with this keramet, whatever is in that literature, he writes a book about this. And we mention Ebul Huda specifically here because his book Kladetül Cevahir is very important. Ebul Huda says that his book is unique in every way, and he seems that there is no book to compare. And he seems to be right on that, and this must be the reason that this book takes place among the main sources of Kenan Rifai's related work. In order to show the place and the value of Hazret Ahmed al-Rifai in the chain of spiritual authority of Wali, the writer calls the book Kiladetul Cevahir, which means a valuable jewelry on the necklace or a pendant. The gem, main stone of a pendant. That's what the name of the book is. In the prelude, he tells us certain qualities of Ahmed al-Rifai, and so that it will be baraka. The qualities that he calls for is the unique Gaus, the only chosen select Qutb, the Imam of the ones who reached Haqq, the Sir of Gnostics, the crown of the leader of Qutbs, the admitted of foremost of the dignifieds, owner of two pennants, the one who is drinking the glass of pleasure, and the Sheikh without the Sheikh, and also kissing the hand of Hazret Prophets in his Hajj, the harbor of the shiftless and the weak, master of foremost of those who see with the eye of certainty, Sheikh of Islam and Muslims, and the harbor of perfect humans. The book contains 10 main parts about Ahmed al-Rifai's ancestors, his birth, growing up, and some important incidents that took place during this time, manner and spiritual state, keramets, samples from his life, his words and views, and Ahmed al-Rifai's praise and his salawat, his sheikh and sluk, well-known people from his tariqa. Also, he talks about the tombs of Gnostics and Zahids in Baghdad, and rendition of state of Ebu Süleyman, Davud bin Nasr et-Tayi el-Kufi, Cüneyd Bağdadi, Abdülkadir Geylani, Ibrahim ed-Desuki, and Ebu Necip Abdülkadir es-Suhreverdi. The work ends by 3 qasidas praising Hazreti Prophet and Ahmed al-Rifai, and one for himself. Now I would like to talk about the relationship between Kenan al-Rifai's works and his work named Sayyid Ahmed al-Rifai. This work is Sayyid Ahmed al-Rifai in 1924. This is the most expensive piece of work, and printed by the publishing home. The writer's identity is written as Ummi Kenan Hankah-ı Şerif-i Seccade Nişini ve Maarif Nezareti Celilesi Terakkiyat-ı İlmiye Encümeni azasından Kenan el-Rifai. So he's a member of the Ministry of Education, and also there are 4 resources for this book. One of them is the Kıladetül Cevahir and Kitab-ı Seyir vel Mesai, written by Ibrahim Efendi from the Bağdat Rifai Lodge. And let's talk a bit about this Kitab-ı Seyir. Kitab-ı Seyir is generally brings together the evrads, the words that he has read, and also talks about the discourses and talks and discussions in the Rifai Tarika. I would like to talk about the parts of this book as well. The first part about ancestor, family, birth. Second part is becoming affiliated with the Tariqa and his look. Third part is manners, state and behaviors. Fourth part is meetings, questions asked him during these meetings and his sagely answers to these questions. Fifth part, important people from his family and well-known people who were in his meetings. Sixth part, manners and discipline in suluk and tariqa. Seventh part, conversations, stages of suluk, zikr, riyazat and khalwat. Eighth part, ceremonies in Rifai Tarika. Ninth part, nicknames of Ahmed al-Rifai. 10th part, some poems of Ahmed al-Rifai. 11th part, branches of Rifai Tarika. 12th part, Iman poems of Kenan Rifai. 13th part, Kenan Rifai is becoming affiliated with the Tarika. 14th part, 52 words and hizbs belonging to Ahmed al-Rifai. So this actually takes the backbone of the two books and brings together a text that is a translation and compilation, and you can see it in the printed symposium book. Also, the most remarkable examples of compiling translation style is observed in transferring of the matter in Ottoman Tasawwuf literature, saying, I will read you a word from it. People of realization tell us the Tariq is about the illuminated heart. That wayfarer, the disciple, also is a wayfarer of divine path, and that is you. And the goal to this path and to this search is also finding yourself, which is also you. So to be on the path and to go further is to go over yourself. That means to go beyond over yourself. So coming and arriving means coming to you without you. Knowing means to know the truth and to grasp it. To find means to be witness and to see it with the visible eye clearly. And from being what we mean is to get rid of duality and to be in union and to be in union without dismissal. So rejoicing these, the pursuer demands himself or herself in the existence of an absolute murshid, so leaves her own will, and without questioning leaves his or her being to the hands of the murshid, as if a dead person is left to the hands of the ghassal, the washer of the dead. So this includes translation as well as some other new topics. The topics mentioned here gives us the main roots of Ahmed al-Rifai's Tariqa and his main topics. Even though there are similar anecdotes and stories told, this is within the framework of the conceptual backbone of this work. So there are things that Ahmed al-Rifai is being portrayed with. As much as a biographical text enables the author, he talked about the practical issues with the words and thoughts of the person that is told. So the main topics can be classified as follows. I put them under 9 main items. The first is definition of Tasawwuf and the etymology of the word Sufi. The second one is the Zahir and Batin, Sharia and Hakika, the Tarika and the Hakika, and the comments on Quran being Zahir or Batin. 3 is about some states and degrees of Tasawwuf. The fourth one is about the Kurbiyet. And 5 is about quality of Velayet. 6 is about the common one, Hallaj Mansur, comments on En al-Haq by Hallaj Mansur, and Sufi is not a being by Ebu el-Hasan Harakani. The topic of Sema, that is widely discussed previously as well as it is being expansively discussed here. 8 is about the adab and some manners and matters about the initiation to a tariqa as the meaning of tariqa, and 9 is about the history of tariqa, the masters of 3 tariqas which reached to Rifai, Imam Shazeli, Ibrahim ad-Desuki, and Ahmed al-Bedevi. Of course, these classifications are are not as diverse as we mentioned above, but they are compiled, they are brought together. It will be much more beneficial if they are read with a thematic approach. So we have done a lot of reading. What is the benefit out of all of that reading? In short, if we were to summarize it, in this book and in the resource text of this book, the meaning of the we can say that in this book the fine details of the Tasawwuf morals has been embodied in the personality of Ahmed al-Rifai, and the doctrinal issues of Tasawwuf has been mentioned in the words of Ahmed al-Rifai, and the practices of the Tariqa had been visible in the attitudes and actions of Ahmed al-Rifai. Thank you.